Now, earlier we spoke with David Meyer, professor of sociology at the University of California in Irvine. He's also the author of Politics of Protests, and he credits the Occupy Wall Street protests with bringing the topic of income inequality into the world of politics.
Well, Occupy changed the conversation in the United States. Prior to Occupy, the big topic of discussion in national politics was the deficit. Barack Obama got up in the morning and he talked about the deficit, looking out the side of his eye for a Republican to come around the corner. The Tea Party talked about the deficit and taxes. Once Occupy emerged, there were other things that you could talk about in politics, and one of those other things was political inequality, and the other was economic inequality. And so the conversation has changed, but the policies really haven't. So there are proposals for raising the minimum wage around the country, and they would make a small impact on inequality. There are proposals for raising taxes on rich people, but they're not taking off, and they're stalled because the Tea Party is still in Congress.
President Obama did get the marginal tax increase he wanted on the rich. Is that a victory for the Occupy movement?
It's absolutely a victory, and it's absolutely a victory most occupiers wouldn't claim because it's so small. It's proverbial crumbs from the table. You know, social movements are never really satisfied with what they get because they always get less than what they want. And so, yes, it made a difference. It was a small victory, but it's not even quite a down payment for what occupiers were after.
What are they after?
Well, that's the gazillion-dollar question, because they don't all agree. But if we're talking about remedying inequality, we're talking about lowering the unemployment rate down from an official rate of 7.6%. We're talking about a situation in which the top 1% get a smaller share of the national income and national wealth, maybe down to what it was in 1965 or 75 or even 85.
All right, I'm going to play devil's advocate with you, Professor, so bear with me here. So you're telling me that if the 1% gave away their money to the poor, that the poor would be happy. And on the other hand as well, if the unemployment rate was at 0, but they were all making minimum wage, they would still be unhappy. Isn't it a no-win situation if you're not part of that movement? I mean, are they just never going to be happy?
I think that activists always have eyes that are bigger than their stomachs, and activists are always asking for more. But I think there are lots and lots of people in Occupy and not in Occupy who are visibly worse off than they would have been under the policies of previous regimes. I went to college in the 1970s. I'm quite an old guy. My loans were 3% interest. Try getting 3% interest on your student loans now. I could work my way through college with a summer job. Well, I mean, unless you're a bond trader, that's impossible now. Now, do we in the United States have some stake in a country where somebody who is willing to work hard can get through college without being in peonage debt for the rest of their lives? I'd say, yeah, probably so. And it's in the interest of the 1%, whoever that is, to leave a little bit on the table rather than scooping it all up for themselves in order to make the society a little stronger.
There are many parts of the world where people live on less than a couple dollars a day. Arguably, there isn't even a minimum wage in many parts of the capitalistic world that we talk about. Europe complains about the fact that people are paid too much, and that's why there's a massive unemployment rate, because they can't hire and fire people perhaps as freely as in other parts of the world. Over in Asia, you have a chronic problem with people graduating that it's not even about the money. They don't even have jobs when they graduate out of school. How does the Occupy movement around the world help those different areas of the globe?
In these countries like Germany, like France, where people complain about the welfare state makes it harder for people to suffer terribly when they're without work. And it makes sure that everybody has access to health care, even if it's not the kind of health care that the very, very richest Americans have become accustomed to. So, I mean, it's, if you want to say that we're doing better than somebody in Rwanda or Kenya, I would say absolutely. And maybe that's not the best vantage point.